to see how we package the learning of science such that learners can be more interested, and also they can learn. So we are using this approach known as profound learning. And in this approach, we don't teach. I am actually the teacher in this for everybody. But I don't do very much talking here. Most of my work is done before. If you see a teacher in profound learning very, very busy during, then you know they have not prepared well. Because if they have thought properly and really guided in the instructions that they provide, the learners should run away. So today I even had time to go to the bank while learning was going on. So I just wanted to give a few pointers to what this is open book. It's an open book exam. So what is a good learning adventure? Because today we were working on learning adventures, and I've just put here very summarized characteristics that make a very good learning adventure or a good learning challenge, around which first let's begin with a challenge. Okay, this is challenge of malaria. And then you put the learning adventure. The learning adventure is the whole package of things that they are going to do. So we need to learn to differentiate a challenge from the learning adventure. So the central challenge is that problem. The central challenge is the problem. And then the learning adventure is the whole construct of activities that you put up so that the learner is addressing the challenge. Okay, let's not confuse the two. So a good challenge should have be authentic and relevant. It should be authentic and relevant because the children are going to be finding out information. So it should have information that they can find. And it is there, it's available. They can research online, they can research in books, and they can also get it authenticated in the community that this is indeed a problem. So it should have a reward connection relating to real life issues. It should be culturally and socially relevant. It should be very relevant to the community. So we are getting away from making you sit in class for so many lectures on geography and you're learning about New York City. And you don't know whether you'll ever see what New York City is. So we want you to learn in the context of things. And then the timeline should address current issues or trends. And if we are looking at the past, it should relate to the present and the future. Such that young people have difficulty identifying with the elderly or with the past. To the young people who are in school now, then I tell them that I went to university, I went to O-level in 1981. Those children to identify with that timeline, for me it is very real. For them, it's like I look at the 1900s when the colonialists came here. It is there, but it is not real. So if we are going to look at a historical something, connect it to the now and to the future. And then, sorry. Okay. So the second aspect should be interdisciplinary. It should be easy for you to identify the different subjects. Don't make a challenge which is predominantly, unless that is how you've designed it. You are saying this term, we are going to have a major subject of biology and we are going to cover 4 topics in biology, and then we are going to have minors in agriculture and what, but make it easily interconnected. And then it should be able to easily cross the boundaries, encourages thinking One thing I saw is some people, when you are even preparing your own adventure, you're doing it like you were using an adventure to learn yesterday. Yesterday you were students. Today you are the teachers. So you are thinking and directing what the children are supposed to do and put it down. Then it should be open-ended. It should not, you remember one of the characteristics of profound learning is choice. So it should not have only one solution. There should be a point at which students have choice. The core things for them to explore, it should be there. But in terms of how they are going to design their solutions, they may not come up with your food tower. Provide them with instruction, with guidelines, with sections in which opens doors for them, so that eventually how they address the challenge, they have a bit of choice. They may want to do hydroponics, they may want to do fish. If they say, oh, but what is the, most of the children are just suffering from kwashiorkor, lack of protein. We want to do a fish pond, such that there is source of fish. Or we want to farm insects. Or we want to, so we should give them, so long as you guide them, that it should not be very complicated. So don't close it up too early. But for you, you know what you want them to learn. Put it in the learning map. And also provide that material, which is sort of standard, but also open them to exploring, because that's how we build the creativity and innovativeness. Then it should be challenging but achievable. Don't get something which is going to be not achievable. Either it's too expensive, they can't find the information, you know, it is going to take a whole year or 2 years to do. It will not be achievable within the time. So it should be achievable. So the complexity should be appropriate. If we are designing a learning adventure for primary school, don't make it very hard, as if you're making it for secondary. The exercises, the requirements, it should be age and the grade appropriate, so that the children don't get stuck because they have a lot of learning gaps. Then it should be collaborative and interactive. So it should foster teamwork, so that the learners know how well the teachers work together to create the learning adventure. It's going to be reflected in how well the learners collaborate. Now, a learning adventure is not something you can do hurriedly. You cannot do it hurriedly. And many times we say, please come to school, let us prepare. Many people are saying time consuming. That is a very relative statement. Because right now, what consumes your time? Writing notes and standing in the class, talking. This morning when I was assessing, I found out that most of the things that I gave by lecture method, very few people could recall. They needed to look again and look again, but the things that you learned, you were able to say everything perfectly. So let's make sure that there is a lot of collaboration. This collaboration is important because, as I told you yesterday, in the real world, we work together. There is no world for scientists alone. Even in the hospital, they need a hospital administrator. They need a cashier. That's one of the most important persons. They need procurement. They need social workers, even when we have doctors. So there is nowhere in the world where you are going to find just one subject which is learning. So make sure that people learn to respect, and that learning to respect others is going to continue in their workplace, and it will also foster proper progress. Because sometimes I work with scientists, they have innovated something, they want to take it to market. Poor fellows, they have no idea how you sell anything. So for 10 years, somebody stays there with something, you see a lot of potential, but they don't know how to work with the marketing person. They don't know how to develop a business actually. They don't know how to sell. So if this starts in school, then they begin to work together. Give them something which is creative, and a lot of it, it should inspire a lot of hands-on things in the learning adventure. I'm talking about the central challenge, because if you don't define the central challenge well, you are going to have a hard time creating a good learning adventure which will keep learners interested for the period of which they are going to learn. And should be inquiry based. It leads with questions instead of answers. You are not to provide the learners with answers. You are going to limit their learning. The learners should learn. You remember we are not in the business of teaching. We are in the business of learning. So you want the learner to own the learning. And so you need to make sure that they are asking themselves questions and saying, how do we solve this? How can we solve this? How can we solve this? And then it should be aligned with the learning goals, with the curriculum. So when you go back, you're going to look again at the curriculum, the topics that we have. We must cover them in learning adventures. We're not giving time for lectures, for lessons, for teaching. No. So the time you are talking about, you're crying for it, is time consuming. That time is available. It is simply converted from you standing in class to teach to you. You remember the roles of the teacher. The roles of the teacher change in profound learning. You are a creator. There were 3 components. Do we remember what those 3 components are? The roles of the teacher: creating, context, conditions, and connections. And connections. Sometimes you see the students might be struggling to connect something. You might just come around, not directly, but crack a joke, which makes them spark and think. So your learning adventure should have the components which were there in my learning adventure yesterday. So you should have had phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Yours was getting finished very shortly. Because you are supposed to have a learning adventure described according to that structure. Some may not have all those phases, but let's take those phases, the one I gave you yesterday. When you have done your learning adventure, it should have all those phases. What was the first phase? It is what? Contextual research. And contextual research is where the learners will get most of the principles and will get to understand most of the things on the learning map. When they are doing that research for what? So you should design the learning adventure such that they are going to have that. What was phase 2? Understanding the what? The core concepts. So now after they have done all this, collected, now they are going to come back and reading the textbooks and research, and again they will be shedding a lot on their learning maps. They will be really shedding quite a lot. Oh, this one there was, yes, now I know that. Fraction, pie chart. I can draw a pie chart. Yes, I can do that now. But can I calculate the percentages? How do you calculate the percentages? Not yet sure. That's yellow. Okay. So in those first 2 phases, they really learn a lot. They familiarize themselves. You saw in that where you have to go and look at the irrigation kit, look at the pH meter. Now the real application is going to come because you're going to do a garden to produce food. But you are learning, the learning you must understand. So then phase 3 was? Designing solutions. Designing solutions. Now your role here is to give the students sources of information that will give them options, that will give them choices. Don't over-direct them. Don't over-choose for them. So long as that solution, first of all, in the first one, they have already understood most of the principles. They have already understood most of the principles. And then phase 4 was prototype. Yeah, they are making that ugly solar cooker. That's not the one they will present at the end. That is just helping them to understand the basic things. Phase 5. Implementation and monitoring. And phase 6. They have to give the presentation. So try to make sure that you are following some of the things. Then please complete your learning maps. I want to give you a few minutes here. If you haven't, do we have the shading thing, the colors? Who is Dr. Cliff? Did we buy the crayons? Yellow, red, yellow, what? But you don't come to a work without those materials. Because shading is one of the most exciting things. Checking, because you are now monitoring. So I know we have some markers. They can use the markers. You can use the markers. You can use the colors available. Red is there. Instead of we have red, we have green, we have blue. So let us improvise. Let us improvise black for what? Black for yellow. Instead of, because we don't have a yellow marker, use black where you want to. Share the markers on the different tables. And lastly, final, as you finish, you are going to, in your groups after here, because you need to have ready to implement learning adventures come opening of the term. Now, if we go from here and we are like, and we keep quiet, you even lose, school will open and there will be no what? Now, other thing, I am not going to pay tuition if people are teaching using the lecture method. If you are using traditional system for my students, next time I'm not paying tuition. I'll only pay tuition if you are using profound learning. Let us implement that. So and if we don't pay tuition, the school is going to suffer. Bannange bannayuganda mwena mbalamusiza mukuliko omwaka guguno tutuuse ku nkomerero yagwo. Nze bampita Dr. Monica Musenero Masanza, ze Minister wa Science, Technology and Innovation. Tubadde wano newankubadde ng'ennaku za Christmas twasalawo nti tuzikozesemu kubanga waliwo skills zenina ate ng'ebiseera ebisinga sirina budde kati okuyambako okupromotinga curriculum yaffe empya eyajja. Tubadde nga twagala tulabe engeri gye tusobola okwongeramu engeri gye tutendeka abasomesa basobole okukwata curriculum eyo nga bulungi. Kati waliwo program gye tuyita oba ensomesa gye bayita profound learning. Ensomesa eno esobozesa abaana okuyiga. Yo teteeka nnyo essira ku kusomesa naye eteeka nnyo essira abaana okuyiga. Kati tubadde wano mu kutendeka kw'ennaku 2 nze mbadde facilitator kubanga na trainingibwa mu nsomesa eno ne bannaffe ab'e Canada kiva mbadde wano nga tusomesa abasomesa batandike bulungi kubanga kati ne senior 6 egendo ne senior 5 HS egenda okutandika bagenda kusoma mu nkola eri curriculum aba O level gye babadde basomeramu empya kubanga kati abaana basomedde ku mu ngeri eri baweddewo kati abaana bagenda okuyingira mu senior 5 O level bamusomera curriculum empya ate curriculum eyo bagiteekawo era ng'eringanga ku mutindo gwa profound learning. Naye kati abasomesa baffe engeri gye batendekebwa nga okutendekawa kwabwe okusinga nga bali mu matendekero basomesebwa kusomesa mu ngeri eri enkadde kati engeri gye bali basomesa nsomesa enkadde si nsomesa empya kubanga ebintu bye basoma ne bwe kibaki kasita obanga okisomesa engeri gy'okisomesaamu kiyinza okukyuka. Kati tubadde guno omusomo tuguyita profound learning era ndowooza abasomi banyumiddwa nnyo kubanga bayize mu nnaku 2 bayize ebintu biyitirivu kubanga era nabo batendekeddwa nga tukozesa method yennyini eyo profound learning.
Kino okikoze nga sample oba ogenda kutalaga ebitundu ebyenjawulo eby'eggwanga okusobola okubangula abasomesa?
Kati kigenda kusaasaana naye twagala okusooka okukyekenneenya engeri gye kitambula. Kati tutandika nga bw'omanyifu ebya science osooka n'ogezesaamu n'okola kye tuyita prototype n'olaba kubanga okusomesa abasomesa wano ne bakwata si kyekikulu balina okugenda ne basomesa abaana n'olaba nga abaana basoma bulungi awo oba okitegedde nti ekintu kino kikola. Kati tutandiise wano nga tukola prototype era bajja kugezesaako tujja kiyitamu tulabe waawakola obulungi waawe batanaba kuyiga. Kati abasomesa bano era bagenda kufuuka batendesi baabalala naye nga bamaze okulaga nti engeri gye bosomesa bwoti bakimatidde bo bennyini ate kubulaga nti bakimatidde kirabikirwa mu baana baabwe engeri gye bayizeemu engeri gye balowoozaamu n'engeri gye bakozeemu ebintu by'engalo kubanga curriculum eno empya erina activities nnyingi naye kati abasomesa balina okudesigninga activities ejo nga zisobesa abaana okuyiga bulungi ate abaana balina okunyumirwa okusoma kuveemu okugumira ng'ogumira bugumizi okusoma naye nga kuluma nnyo naye kati abaana balina okuba nga banyumirwa okusoma. Kati mu maaso gye bujja kijja kubanga kisaasaana naye kati bano betutandise nabo bagenda kugezesaako tulabe ku ngomerero etamu esooka era tugenda kuddamu tulabe abaana bayize batya biki ebivuddemu. Kati bwe tunaamalaawo tulyoke twongereyo twagala n'okulaba abaana bano bwe baba bakoze ebibuuzo bya UNEB basingako bannaabwe abasomedde mu ngeri eri endala awo kinaaba kikutte tulyoke tutandika okukisaasaanya.
Ogambye nti abamu ku baana ekibalemeseza science ensomesa
ensomesa nze nange kugamba science yalinganga otwala risiki kubanga otya okugwa newankubadde nga nali mwagala naye ng'engeri gye basomesaamu kugamba ebintu ebisinga okubitebenkereza bizibu nnyo. Abasomesa tebakubuulira lwaki osoma ekintu kino kati okisoma obusomi atomu nosoma atomu naye nga atomu togirabako ate kugamba bikomaawo olinganga oliawo waliwo noono omuyimbi ayimba oluyimba yatuyimbira oluyimba lwa science n'agamba musibiri byakubalansinga equation kubanga omwana asoma ku balancing equation naye nga tamanyi ekintu kino kigenda kunyamba kitya mu bulamu era ndaba n'okutuuka kati abantu abakulu bagamba kati lwaki namala obudde nga nsoma ebintu ebyo byonna naye kati ensomesa eno omwana ategeererawe era aviira eri ku mugaso kati n'alaba nga ekintu ekyo kimusanyusa nnyo n'akiraba bulungi n'akitebenkereza nga era alina okulaba engeri gy'agenda okukikozesaamu n'akigezaako okulaba nga kimunyumira. Ate n'ekirala nti ensomesa eno eya profound learning tetusoma subjects nga ziri isolated. Ono wa physics ategeera bwakwataganira n'owa biology, n'ategeera bwakwataganira n'owa geography, n'ategeera bwakwataganira n'ow'oluzungu. Kugamba subjects zonna zibanga zikwatagana ng'obulamu bwennyini bwe buli, kubanga mu bulamu tewali kintu kyosanga ekikolebwa nga kikolebwa n'abantu abasoma essomo eritya erimu. Kati kino kibalaga okubanga bakola bulungi nga bakwatagana bulungi. Banange Bannayuganda, Mukama mulungi, atuyise mu mwaka 2024 gwatandika nga jjuzi lino naye kati olwaleero 31. Mbakulisa mwenna okubanga mugwiseemu. Bannange n'olwaleero twegendereze obubenje buleme okututwala, tubeere nga twegendereza, tetuvuga kimaama, tetuvuga kironnyo, tetuvuga nga tunywedeko akenge, tetuvuga nga tutaddemu mu bwongo, tetuvuga nga tukayaana, tetuvuga nga tuli ku masimu. Tukendeeze ne supiidi y'endiima, kubanga wakati wano wa Krismasi n'enkomerero y'omwaka tufiiriddwa abantu bangi ku nguudo. Kale njagala obakubiriza era kitalo nnyo ku famire ya RDC, Deputy RDC waffe Budaka. Bannange abooluganda mbasaasidde nnyo, tubasaasidde nnyo okufiirwa maama waffe oyo mu ngeri etetegerekeka. Naye kati ffe abayiseemu njagala obakulisa omwaka, era mwenna abagenda mu crossover services mutambule bulungi, mubeere n'okwegendereza. Abantu bamanyi okunywa nnyo olunaku luno ate ne bafuna ebizibu. Oluusi wabeerayo n'omupiira bannange, temukayaanira mupiira, emitima ne giboononeka. Maniyu aba agobye, mumuleke Maniyu agobe, temugukayaanira. Happy New Year.